manifest to you in terms of law might cause you hardship. For if you should ask about them while the Quran is being revealed, it might indeed be made manifest to you as laws. God has absolved you from any obligation in this respect, for God is much forgiving, forbearing. So what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying here, He's actually saying to the people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is revealing a message. And the Prophet ﷺ is teaching this message. Don't ask questions. You know how you say something and people ask clarification, follow-up message? Surprisingly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, don't ask. When the Quran is revealed, whatever you hear, you obey best you can. Don't ask him, because he says if you ask the question, then I may reveal something that will just make your situation more difficult. So the two good examples is in the Quran, this happened to the Jews. And I want to talk briefly about why the Quran spends so much time on the Yahudi or Jews. So in this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Baqarah says to the Jewish people, O lo, Moses said unto his people, behold, God bids you to sacrifice a calf. They said, dost thou mark us? He answered, I seek refuge against being so ignorant. They're saying to him that you're telling us to sacrifice a calf. I'm not so ignorant that I'm going to go and do this. You have to give me more information. So they say, said they, they're saying to Musa, pray on our behalf unto thy sustainer, that he make clear unto us what she is to be like. Musa replied, behold, he says it is to be a cow neither old nor immature, but of an age in between. Do then what has been bidden. They said, pray on our behalf unto thy sustainer, that he make clear to us what her color should be. Musa answered, behold, he said it is to be a yellow cow, bright of hue, pleasing to the beholder. Said they, pray on our behalf unto thy sustainer, that he make clear unto us what she is to be like, for to us all cows resemble one another. And then, if God so wills, we shall truly be guided aright. And Musa answered, behold, he said it to be a cow not broken in to plow the earth or water the crops, free of fault, without markings of any other color. Said they, at last thou hast brought out the truth, and thereupon they sacrificed her, although they had almost left it undone. If they just sacrificed any cow, when Musa says sacrifice the cow, they'd be done. But no, they had to ask questions, and then more questions, and more questions, to the point where almost there's no cow that's going to fit that description. Now, this also happened in a famous hadith of the Prophet. Abu Hurairah reported that in one of his sermons, he said, "O my people, God has ordained the Hajj for you, therefore perform it." Thereupon somebody asked, "Every year, O Rasulullah?" And the Prophet remained silent. And the man repeated his question twice. Then the Prophet said, and in another hadith it said that he made a face like he was upset. And the Prophet said, "Had I answered yes, it would have become incumbent on you to perform the pilgrimage every year. And indeed, it would have been beyond your ability to do it. Do not ask me about matters which I leave unspoken, for behold, there were people before you." Remember the Jewish people? People before you who went to their doom because they had put too many questions to their prophets and thereupon disagreed about their teachings. Therefore, if I command you anything, do it as much as you are able to do, and I forbid you anything and abstain from it. This is in Sahih Muslim. So the moral here that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to teach us is that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you an instruction to do something, just do your best. Because if you think from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's point of view, He doesn't need it to be like the cow has to be this way or this way, this way. Because if you're sacrificing for Allah's sacrifice, if He says sacrifice a cow and you sacrifice a cow, then you fulfill your responsibility. And that's said because He doesn't need the cow and He doesn't need a particular color or He doesn't need a particular age. But if you ask the question, then you can fall into trouble. And the point here is that people often say, well, the time is over. The Prophet ﷺ is gone. Nobody, if we ask question now, then any answer that somebody gives us, it's not going to be law, like if it would happen in that time. So the logic goes, now the Prophet ﷺ is passed away, let's all ask all the questions. And the fuqaha and the maulanas, they give all the answers. But the problem is that those answers, unfortunately, to most people are represented like it's the law. People don't know the distinction between when the Shaykh is saying that what's from the Quran and what's his opinion and they don't know. So what happens is that the law, which is relatively small, becomes very big and becomes very complicated. And something that's very easy becomes very difficult. Because just like you could have just done one thing, maybe the Quran says something very simple, and then you do all these fatwas that add, like salah. Quran says, aqimus salah. Okay, you just pray. Now, when the Prophet ﷺ said to pray, it's very interesting. He said, pray as you see me pray. That's a very simple instruction. Now, if I say, pray as you see me praying, and you're all here watching me pray, you will all take different things. You will not all pray exactly, the finger will this, or is the finger like this, or the finger like this. Like these all little details. You may catch one thing, you may catch something else. But if he wanted unanimity, he could have given unanimity. He could have been more detailed. But he didn't. And that's why we have so much differences in method of prayer. But the person who prays with good intention, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when you put your finger like this or like this, He's not going to undermine it. One famous Indian poet scholar, some will name Muhammad Iqbal, he said one of the greatest travesties that the scholars have done to the ummah is that they've given the impression that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is out to take away any good that they do. He's waiting for you to make the mistake. And as soon as you make the mistake, He's like, okay, no sawab for you. But it's the opposite. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make every excuse for you to give you if you have the intention. He is not out there looking for you to make a mistake. If you make a mistake, He'll excuse it. Now, a brief note about the Jews. You know, sometimes people quote these verses that speak about the Yahudi, and they speak of them in a negative sense. And they use it to say, oh, the Yahudi, they're this, look at the Quran, it talks about it. But in actuality, the Quran talks about many communities, and many. There is not just Yahudi, Lut alayhi salam, Ibrahim alayhi salam, Yunus alayhi salam, all these it talks about. Every person that's mentioned is not there to tell us good or bad about their people. It's there to give a lesson. And the Yahudi are there to instruct us that these followers of Moses, they made mistakes. And you don't make the same mistake as them. That's why. It's not trying to badmouth them. It's trying to help us learn from them so that we don't make the mistakes that they made. All right. Okay. In Surah 6, verse 68, this is just about human nature. One of the beautiful things about the Quran is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us so He knows us. He knows the human nature, so He accounts for that. So we see, He says, now, whenever thou meet such as indulge in blasphemous talk about our messages, turn thy back upon them until they begin to talk of other things. And if Satan should ever cause thee to forget thyself, remain not after recollection in the company of such evil-doing folk, for whom those who are conscious of God are in no wise accountable. Theirs, however, is the duty to admonish the sinners so that they might become conscious of God. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, if you're sitting with a bunch of people that are talking bad things about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, about Islam, or just bad things about people, it doesn't say cut them off, stay away, don't be friends with them, don't be around them. It doesn't say that. It says that when they're doing that, it says, turn thy back upon them until they begin to talk of other things. And then it also accounts for the human nature. And if you forget, you're sitting there and they're talking and you forget to get up and leave. He said, if you forget, then don't worry. After you remember, then get up and leave. And then he says, you're not accountable for them, but all that you can do is you can admonish them. And admonish is a word that means to remind somebody in a polite and gentle way. Because admonishment implies that the people know. So what you're doing is not really teaching them. You're reminding them of something they already know. people know right from wrong. If somebody is verbally assaulting somebody and you tell them, you're not teaching them, you're reminding them what they know. And just trying to encourage them to do it. And that makes it easier for, if you admonish them instead of lecture them, there's a greater probability that they will actually listen. And if that's your objective, then you will admonish them. If your objective is to make a scene or to demean him or embarrass him, then the outcome will not be good. Okay, now go to Juz 8. We're halfway through the program. Okay. This is about the fact that to reach Jannah doesn't require you to be perfect. Okay? And the Quran talks about that. Again, it accounts for our nature. It says, but those who attain to faith and do righteous deeds. Remember, faith and deeds. Always it talks about both. And we covered in the first session that the people who have faith but don't good deeds, they're in trouble. The Quran made that clear. But those who attain to faith and do righteous deeds, and we do not burden any human being with more than he is well able to bear, they are destined for paradise, therein to abide. After we shall have removed whatever unworthy thoughts or feelings may have been lingering in their bosom. So, meaning you will go to Jannah, but before there I will remove some unworthy thoughts and things that were associated with you from you and purify you before I say it. Meaning you're not perfect. You have problems. So I will assist to cleanse you of that before you go to this holy place. Running waters will flow at their feet, and they will say, all praise is due to God who has guided us unto this. For we would certainly have not found the right path unless God had guided us. Indeed, our sustainers, apostles, have told us the truth. And a voice will call out unto them, this is the paradise which you have inherited by virtue of your past deeds. Again, to talk a little, this connects from the first session about the story of Adam and Eve. And remember we talked about Adam and Hawa and how that's a representation of life. And briefly what we said was that Adam alayhi salam and Hawa were in the garden, and there was, they were told not to eat from the tree, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, do anything you want, don't eat from the tree. And then the shaitan came and he tempted them. He said, this is the tree, eat from this tree and you will live forever. It's the tree of immortality. So he whispered in them, he gave them this, and then they fell into it and they ate from the tree. And then they became ashamed and they asked for forgiveness, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgave them. And this represents life. Life will go in this cycle. A Muslim life is not a life without sin and wrong. A Muslim life is filled with this kind of humbleness that says that I fall, I get up, I ask for forgiveness, and I try again. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that the tree represents the temptation, and the shaitan is the tempter, which can come from inside or outside. And you will deal with this in your whole life. And on occasion, good people will fall. Adam alayhi salam, they're good people. They will fall. And when you fall, the good person will feel shame. That's the nakedness. They will feel shame. The good person will. Bad people won't feel shame. But the good person will feel shame, and they will, it's like they will ask for forgiveness, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive them. So that's the story. So this is about Musa alayhi salam, and it follows this cycle. Musa alayhi salam is also probably really shows the humanity, the humanness of prophethood. He says in Surah Al-Araf, starting verse 150, and when Moses returned to his people full of wrath and sorrow, and when Moses returned to his people full of wrath and sorrow, he exclaimed, vile is the course which you have followed in my absence. Have you forsaken your sustainer''s commandment? And he threw down the tablets of the law and seized his brother's head, dragging him towards himself. His brother is there, so he left him in charge. Cried Aaron, O my father's son, O my mother's son, behold, the people brought me low and almost slew me. So let not mine enemies rejoice at my affliction and count me among the evildoers. So he's saying that he tried his best, and Musa alayhi salam came and he grabbed him and he brought him. He was upset. Now first, look at the temper. He sees it, he throws the tablet, he grabs his brother, he pulls him. His brother says, they're going to be rejoicing this because I'm one of the good guys. They're all happy that you're assaulting me. And so he told them this. So then Musa alayhi salam says, "O my sustainer, grant thou forgiveness unto me." Now he does forgiveness. Remember the story of Adam alayhi salam? He made the mistake. Now he asked for forgiveness. Remember, this is a prophet. It said, "Grant thou forgiveness unto me and my brother, and admit us unto thy grace, for thou art the most merciful of the merciful." And Aaron said, "Verily, as for those who have taken to worshipping the golden calf, their sustainers' condemnation will overtake them, and ignominy in this life and in the next. For thus do we requite all who invent such falsehood. But as for those," so now he's saying these people are going to be done. But he says, "But as for those who do bad deeds, and afterwards repent, and truly believe, verily, after such repentance, the sustainer is indeed much forgiving and dispenser of grace." Just like the story of Adam and Eve. If you ask genuine forgiveness, you will be forgiven. And when Moses' wrath was stilled, he had calmed down, he took up the tablets, in the writing whereof there was guidance and grace for all who stood in awe of their sustainer. Guidance is only for the people who basically feel the presence of God, and it's only for them. Other people, it's meaningless. And Musa alayhi salam chose out of his people 70 men to come and pray for his forgiveness at the time set by us. Then when violent trembling seized them, he prayed, "O my sustainer, hast thou so willed, thou wouldst have destroyed them ere this, and me with them. Wilt thou destroy," now here he says, "Wilt thou destroy us for what the weak-minded amongst us has done?" Meaning these other people did this, are you going to destroy us for that? "All this is but a trial from thee, whereby thou allowest to go astray whom thou willest, and guidest aright whom thou willest. Thou art near unto us, grant us then forgiveness, and have mercy on us, for thou art the best of believers." Now, elsewhere in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, whereas in Surah Baqarah it says, "Whereas those who are bent on denying truth say, what could God mean by this prayer? In this way does he cause many one to go astray, just as he guides many a one aright." So this is a very important concept, that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that I let whoever go astray and I guide who I want, or I cover their ears, or I do this to them, then people can ask the question that, well, then why are you going to hold us accountable when you're the one making us do these things? Well, there's a principle in the Quran and in Islam called Sunnatullah, which just means the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's way. And in the Quran, you have to understand that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that he does something, he says here, for example, in this way, so he says, "In this way does he cause many a one to go astray, just as he guides many a one aright. But none does he cause thereby to go astray, save the iniquitous." So who does he cause to go astray? He caused to go astray the people who are iniquitous, who are not God conscious, who don't care. So he doesn't cause to go astray somebody who's good. He only guides him who wills to be guided. He unguides the one who doesn't will to be guided. So Sunnatullah is basically the laws of cause and effect. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says he is doing this, and he says you're responsible for this, they both mean the same thing. Him doing it doesn't mean that you're not responsible. Him doing it means that he's implemented certain laws of nature in this dunya. And you are beholden to those laws. You can't get around that law. So everything that you do ultimately is due to him. Everything you do is due to him because it's his law that you have to follow. And part of his law is that if you don't care and you don't put effort and you deny him or don't care for him and do things, then you will go down the wrong path and it will build. And this is Sunnatullah. And if you then, like in the famous hadith, if you take one step towards him and he'll take 2 steps towards you, then this is also sunnatullah. This is the law of cause and effect as well. So when you see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talking in this way, just know that He's talking about the laws of cause and effect. And when He says, none can give you succour, none can give you aid except me, what does that mean? He's not going to come down from heaven and rescue you. How many a times things have happened and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't come down and just rescue you magically. In the battle of Badr, He didn't come and rescue them. They fought that battle. And same thing with Uhud. And all the other battles that He dealt with, some in which He didn't have to even do anything. But what is important is that the laws of God, the patience, the sabr, the God consciousness, the things that you have, these will help you. And this is very important when it comes to sin and reward. Many people think of sin and reward, sayyat and hasanat, good deeds and bad deeds, they think of it as points. You know, and unfortunately, a lot of people teach that there's points. So I'm going to do this, I'm going to get some points on the board. I'm going to do this, I lost some points. I'm going to do that. Maybe that's a good way to start out, but in reality, you have to understand when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says this gives you sawab or hasanat, good deeds, He's only saying that because you will benefit from it. He's not saying it in an arbitrary way. Let me see. I'm going to tell you, take 3 rights and a left, and I'm going to see if you do it. And if you do it, I'm going to give you points. No. He's not going to make arbitrary rules. When He says, you know, pray, He knows that prayer will help you in this life. It will help you. When He says fast in the month of Ramadan because it brings you closer to God, He's saying that it increase your taqwa. He's telling you to do this to increase your taqwa, because if your taqwa is higher, it will protect you from doing other things. The more presence of God you feel, the more presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala you feel, the less likely you are to do wrong things. But that will help you, because if the Quran says don't drink alcohol, okay? Alcohol is something that the Quran says in it there's good and bad, and the bad is far away the good. So the alcohol is not this thing that is like the riba or something like it's very hard. It's something that He said there's some good in it too. But He's saying that if you do it, the good is not worth it. And how many a non-Muslim agrees? It's not a Muslim thing. Anybody, many people don't drink because of something in the past or something in the family, because they've seen that there's an actual benefit to following this rule. Same thing with pork, you know, it gives you a disease. That's why they have to cook it so much. There's a reason. Now maybe 1400 years ago, Allah didn't explain all of this. People don't know all these things, but He's protecting the people. So anything that's sawab, or guna, or hasanat, or sayyat, you have to understand that it will give you benefit in this world. The akhirah will come too. But anything that He says is forbidden to you, I can assure you, in some way is bad for you. And anything that He says is good for you will give you some benefit. Maybe He'll give you some discipline. Maybe He'll give you some consciousness, or tell the truth. If you tell the truth, sometimes you may get in trouble from telling the truth. But how many people have learned that your word is your bond? If you become an honest person, it can help you in business.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Alright, so we're at 32 minutes, so we're done. 10 seconds. The next juz, one of the things I was unable to cover today was about slavery. It's a concept that unfortunately is very misunderstood. So I hope you guys can make it to the session tomorrow to cover that subject matter. And the other thing we'll cover is munafiqeen and the mushrikeen. So those are coming the next two juz. Jazakallah.